Welcome back. This is part 4 in our series on getting interviewed by generative AI and creating a compelling podcast that blends the capabilities of generative AI with you, the human, and what makes you unique. If you're building a personal brand, if you're building a marketing platform that's human-centric, you want to use generative AI in an intelligent way and not just hand it off to everything. In part 1, we talked about setting up the audio, and we talked about getting the priming process done. In part 2, we built the system instructions and the synthetic personality. In part 3, we did the interview. We did the interview with our synthetic podcast host, Grace Parker Thompson, whose initials obviously are GPT. And now we have to do some processing with it. So let's go ahead and switch over to our editing studio. I'm using Adobe Premiere. You can use whatever audio or video editing tool you want. The key here is going to be making sure that you are able to handle the data and process the data in an intelligent way. So let's go ahead and drag our video in from the last few episodes, and we'll call this Chat GPT Cast. And let's go ahead and bring in our video. Bring in our video, and we can see there is the interview with Grace Parker Thompson. Let's go ahead and open this up in Audition. One of the things that you should do when you're building a podcast is do leveling and cleanup. You make the sound better, frankly. If we look at the waveform here, it's okay. It's not horrendous looking. But what we want to do is we want to give it some compression, give it some leveling. So let's do. I'm just level it to. I'm going to hit match loudness because I want this to be at a minus 16 LUFS, which is this audio standard for podcasts. And what this will do is just bring the audio up to that level throughout the file. Let's take a look here. 14 seconds to finish the process. You should do this for any kind of audio where you're publishing it and you want people to be able to listen to it, because the minus 16 decibel LUFS allows it to be heard in things like vehicles. Okay, let's hit save. That looks good. If I scroll towards the end, no, it's still saving. People listen to podcasts in all sorts of different places, and we want our volume to be reasonable so that they don't have to like ride the volume switch. If you wanted to go a bit more advanced, you could, for example, take this and apply some compression to it. So let's put some compression. Let's do our tube modeled compressor and use the voice thickener, which does a good job of making voices sound, well, thicker, if you will. Again, that makes quieter voices louder and makes louder voices quieter. Compression is sort of one of the hallmarks of really good, really well-produced audio. The next thing to do is look here in Adobe Premiere. We can see the actual transcript that it's made. So this makes editing a heck of a lot easier. Let's go ahead and scroll down to our GPT. And there's all of our instructions. And let's see. And here's the start of the podcast. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this. There's the start of our podcast. We're going to cut out the portion we don't need here. And this went for about 8.5 minutes or so, which is not bad. What do you do with this? Well, export it like any other podcast, right? That's what you do, is you export this thing, and you can put this in a podcast feed, get it transcribed, and so on and so forth. But the key here is that by integrating ChatGPT and its advanced interviewing, it does a really good job of simulating a podcast host, and that in turn means that it's something that you can use and create more interesting content than just having machines generate it by themselves. With a lot of the AI tools that are out there, they have a tendency to try to take a human out of the loop entirely. Like, hey, we'll just make the thing, here you go, here's the thing. If you're trying to build a personal brand, that kind of sucks. Right, there's no part of you in there. If you are trying to build a really interesting thought platform, then having machines do it all. There's nothing in an environment where machines making everything that communicates your expertise. Why should someone want to do business with you? Why should someone hire you? Why should someone listen to you if you're not there? Now, there is a market. I was talking to my friend Tom Webster from Sounds Profitable about this. There is absolutely a market for just generic information read out by machines, right? There has been for decades. Tune into shortwave radio, and you can listen to METAR reports, which are automated weather reports that just spit out, say, names and numbers of your nearest airport code, and it gets you the information you want. It's useful, it's helpful, but there's no personality behind it. And with these tools that, like the Notebook LM example, again, super useful, but it's not you. And more important, everyone else in marketing is making the exact same thing. At least when you use a tool like the ChatGPT integration that we were talking about and the examples we show in the first 4 episodes, you're in there somewhere, right? You, the person, are in there, and it's asking you challenging questions. That's better. That's better than just the machines doing it itself, especially if you take some time to prime the model properly in advanced voice mode, so that you get the kind of interview that you want, right? Maybe you, instead of saying, ask me challenging questions, you say, ask me softball questions, ask me silly questions, ask me offbeat questions, ask me questions that are not about the topic. And that, in turn, will create more entertaining content than just having, automated machine summaries. No matter how good the machine summaries get, they're still not you. So I would encourage you to keep you in your marketing and use tools as we've set up in this example to do exactly that. So in the 5th and final part of this series, I'm going to walk through how you would do this if you just cannot get the synchronous audio. It's more work and it's more post-production work. But if you just don't have the setup or you don't have the skills to do all the wiring, then it'll be a little bit easier. So stay tuned for that in part 5. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.